ClickMyLoan is created in 6 months with the help of the efforts that we gave in last 10 years. And if I tell you, working for banks and fintech made us ambidextrous. We are not aiming to become the unicorn. We are aiming for the billion-dollar revenue company.
India is a market I hadn't worked in a lot until my current role, but one that had always fascinated me. Just the rate of growth alone is enough to grab your attention, but I wanted to learn a little bit more. So I'm speaking to Kabeer Chaudhary, who has been on the ground at the forefront of the modernization and digitization of personal lending there. Kabeer Chaudhary, founder and CEO at ClickMyLoan. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Brandon, how are you? Thanks a lot for having me on the show.
Kabeer, you've been a founder in the Indian fintech space for over a decade now, and that decade has been a pretty exciting one for the market. So I'd like to take advantage of that long experience you've got. Would you mind giving me a quick lesson on what the Indian fintech landscape looks like and how it's changed since 2012 when you got involved as a founder for the first time? And maybe along the way, you can also explain what you were doing to help shape that growth we're talking about.
So, Brandon, the changes in last 10 years were monumental, and they have shaped Indian fintech very well. So, India is now home to 17 fintech unicorns, which is third highest in the world. First is US, second is UK, and third, of course, India. Indian fintech space is estimated at USD 110 billion in 2023 and will reach to USD 400 billion by 2029, growing at a staggering CAGR of 30%. In Jan 2024, the volume of digital transaction reached 12 billion transactions a month, and it is expected to reach about 1 billion transactions every day by 2025. Also, the digital lending market was worth USD 270 billion in 2022, and it is expected to reach USD 350 billion in 2030. Marquee investors like Warren Buffett, Jack Ma, Masayoshi Son are aggressively investing in fintech ecosystem and fintech startup. And the reason it has happened is just one. 10 years ago, the dream of every person after completing the master's in finance was to get a job in private equity or hedge fund or investment banking. Now it is not the case. Every person who graduates or comes out of masters wants to get into startup ecosystem or want to start a new startup. And this dream was fueled by VC and private equity ecosystem in last 10 years.
The Indian market is pretty unique. I suppose to some extent the Chinese market is similar, but if we look around the big tech players, so Silicon Valley, if we look at the big names there, we've got Indian CEOs and Indian managers really high up. Building those skills that they can bring home and adapt for the local market. It's not a emerging market that was sort of developing on its own. It had an ability to tap right into the most cutting edge tech in the world, these incredible human resources. So just so much energy and stuff happening there. And as I said, you've been in that startup space for a little over a decade now. First with Banktree, which was put you into a sort of a central position, bird's eye view to look at that consumer lending world. So as you said, there's been a bit of a paradigm shift. How did you see the market change in terms of who was in there making loans, who was borrowing, which products were working well?
See, I believe the technological changes really helped the entire market in the fintech grew to a staggering pace. And primarily on the lending space, I would say the development of regulatory bodies, which became really strict, and the technological changes, which really helped us to analyze or perhaps to jump to underwriting decisions quickly, it really helped entirely to move from where we were. Along with that, I guess government played a huge role by creating PSL, priority sector lending, where government forced every lending institution to prioritize their lending And every year they came up with a list for MSMEs or education loans. So this really helped in last 10 years. Soon after my graduation, I did my master's in finance, started working in Bank of America in investment banking division, did comparative company analysis for almost 2 years. After that, I quit my job. I created a company called Banktree, where we were doing sales of financial products for top 5 banks in India. In just 2 years, we grew to 200 people. We were doing about 8,000 applications a month and somewhere in north of 95,000 applications a year. During this time, we started working for fintechs also, executed sales for them. We did this for almost 8 years, and these 8 years really shaped us to who we are today.
Having had that time of observing the market from the center point, really seeing what consumers were liking and weren't liking, what was it that you saw in the market that said, okay, I need to go out and build ClickMyLoan?
It was more of a choreographed dance. So working for banks and fintech made us ambidextrous. It gave us understanding of the credit rule engine, the brains behind the operation, the thought process, and the why. And then eventually we applied for lending license and pivoted to fintech. And that's how ClickMyLoan is created in 6 months with the help of the efforts that we gave in last 10 years.
10 years to become an overnight success, as they say. Talk to me about what ClickMyLoan is.
So I would say the expertise that we gained nearly a decade of experience in banking and fintech helped us significantly to stitch a unique loan product, which is a blend of both banks and fintech. Currently, banks in India, they are offering an average loan ticket size of $5,000, and their average tenure is about 28 months. And the problem that banks face is huge CAC, customer acquisition cost. And the fintech side, average ticket size is about $250. And average tenure is 6 months. And their major problem is huge NPA. So now we offer a loan between them around $1,200, ranging from $500 to $5,000. Our average tenure is about 12 months. Our NPA is less than 2.5%. And we can proudly say that we are the only digital fintech digital lenders in the country.
Yeah, talk to me about what that digital experience looks like for a consumer.
Let's suppose 1 a.m. in the morning, customer logs in our system. So the entire loan process can be summarized through the customer journey of 8 stages while obtaining loan from us. So stage 1, customer logs in with the OTP. He enters his postal code where we blacklist and whitelist the PIN codes or zip codes. Stage 3, he enters the UID, which Government of India has provided to every Indian, which is similar like SSN of USA. With this, we fetch all of his linked government documents, passport, driving license, everything with this UID. Since we are regulated lenders, we can fetch all those documents right away. Stage 4, he enters his PAN number. This particular number is linked with all the banks and income tax. With this, we fetch the bureau. Stage 5, we take his consent to fetch his bank statement with the help of open banking, and then we feed it to bank statement analyzer. And then the BSA spits out the decision in nanoseconds. Stage 5, basing all these information, system takes the decision. If the decision is yes, then stage 7, customer accepts the loan and sets up an auto pay. Stage 8, disbursement happens at 1:15 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. Talk to me about what that might have looked like, say, 10, 15 years ago.
See, in 2012, when we started with Banktree, every process was physical. We were supposed to physically visit customer, collect his documents, collect his signature, and then we used to stamp with OSV, seen and verified. And then we were not allowed to store those documents for more than 24 hours because that is not right since we were intermediary with banks. And it usually took between 7 to 8 days just for the application from the start to end to reach to a decision. And loan disbursement would take somewhere about 15 days. A normal loan.
Yeah.
Unsecured loan. I'm not talking about the secured loan. Secured loan would take even longer.
What is so impressive and why I think that Indian market should be looked at by everyone, whether they're interested in lending there or not, is because of that change that we've seen happening where you've got centralized biometric databases to verify identity with a government source. You've got open banking to look into the bank accounts. You've got immediate interbank payments. So India's built this ecosystem in a decade that takes all these things that the rest of us are maybe putting in a little bit here, a little bit there, completely overhauled it to a point where, I mean, taking weeks to minutes to make a loan that is no more risky. In fact, obviously, with access to credit bureaus and identity verification and open banking, it's less risky than it would have been in the old days with bits of paper moving around. It's that sort of structural innovation that, one, should be a goal for all of us, but two, obviously, has been one of the things that have empowered that growth in lending, because it must have dramatically reduced the cost to serve a loan, which obviously means we can serve smaller loans. We can serve loans beyond where any branch network would have ever reached. You are obviously always quite keen to innovate, to drive forward as an entrepreneur in the lending space. So as you look at the market where it is today, as changed as it is, what do you see on the horizon? What are the exciting things, I guess, for ClickMyLoan that we should look for, but also that those of us outside the Indian market should be keeping an eye on?
So as I always say, Brandon, India is now the coolest party in town. And if you are late, you might not get in. I say to all these people who are outside India that you should better get in. And the government regulation in the lending is just fabulous. You just can obtain license in 24 hours and you can start lending. The Japanese banks, the Chinese people, the Russian banks, they have entered Indian lending space left, right, and center. And it is just the beginning. And also the size of population also has played a huge and pivotal role. Indian loan market, not just the digital market, it's somewhere in the north of $2 trillion. And it's going to grow even more.
Just the scale and the sort of economic history of the country. I mean, there are these massive pockets, millions of people you can serve if you've got a well-built product. Yeah, and I didn't realize it was quite so fast to get up and going. It wasn't long ago that the exact opposite was what we would expect. Like lots of hurdles to get over, lots of paperwork, lots of processes that needed manual touch. And those have all gone. So as you say, there's some openings still there, but they won't be there for long because it's not really a secret, is it? Talk to me a bit about the, as we sort of finish the ClickMyLoan story in terms of market reception. Where are you operating? Where are you picking up your customers from?
Sales is like a choreographed dance for us. Sales is the only thing that we have no problem with. So we are acquiring customers digitally. We are acquiring customers physically. We are acquiring customers through cold callings. Recently, we have our hoardings on the metro, 25 of the Delhi most busiest metro station, where we are getting leads. So sales is it's perhaps the least of our concern.
So on the back end then, you've already sort of touched on some of those tools, but maybe we can spend a little bit of time expanding on what's there. What tools do you have available in terms of data and analytics to be able to screen those customers?
Over these 10 years, I have understood it's a very simple business. Default happens for only two reasons. One is lack of money. Another one is lack of intent. There's no third reason. And the tools that we use to find out the lack of money is, of course, the bank statement, where we see fixed obligation versus income ratio. And just to check the lack of intent, we have bureaus. So if we talk about 10 years ago or perhaps 15 years ago, these tools were readily available. Now through digitization, they just come handy. These tools were also available back then, even though perhaps in 2006, 2007, people, when they were applying loan in India, bureaus were still active, bank statements were still there, and banks were offering credit to those who have both of these things. If you do not have credit history, they were just not offering. What technology has done in last 10 to 15 years, that it has been made available to us via API. And with this new technology, we fetch them with nanosecond and we make decision based on our whole engine. And talking about the customers, we are currently handling about 3,000 to 3,500 customers a day with the approval rate of about 20%. This is currently what we are doing.
And as you said, like remarkably low loss rates. So we're not saying 30% loss rates and 90% APRs, and we're just, hoping for the best. You can really manage your risk down, as you've been able to show. So yeah, a pretty exciting and impressive business you've built there. Kabeer, if somebody listening wants to learn more about the ClickMyLoan business, where's a good place for them to go to speak to you or to learn more about the business? What are the places online that they should go and visit?
Reach to me directly at Kabeer@clickmyloan.com. The website is clickmyloan.com, and I'll be more than happy to respond to any query or any question, or if at all you want to enter into Indian market, I'll be more than happy to help any way that you may request or require.
Yeah, and I'll put the links into the show notes as well. I found you on LinkedIn, very friendly and easy to find there. Yeah, a remarkable story to follow. Kabeer, as you sort of think about the future, are there any big projects or big stories we should be looking out for coming out of ClickMyLoan?
We are not aiming to become the unicorn. We are aiming for the billion-dollar revenue company. Since we market ourselves as the only digital lender, since we keep on saying that, and the experience that we carry comes from the 10 years of working with banks and fintech, and that's how we have stitched such a beautiful product with the less of the NPA. I would say billion-dollar revenue would not be very far. Being marketed as the only digital lender, I see 2030 we'll be speaking again, and I would be telling you, please pick up my podcast from 2024. And then you can quote me there.
I look forward to it. I'll put a reminder in my calendar, and we'll catch up again. I think it's certainly possible, and I love to hear that. Taken 10 years of learning, we've been in the middle of this industry, not just at one lender, but with these arms reaching into all these different lenders that gave you a wonderful opportunity to learn. We've taken that, we've packaged it into a fantastic product, and that's what we're doing. We take our fantastic product to the market. So I wish you the best of luck with that, and definitely we'll follow back when you hit that target and get you back on the show.
Thank you, Brandon.
And thank you all for listening. Please do look for and follow the show on your favorite podcast platform, and share the updates widely on LinkedIn, where lending nerds are found in our largest concentration. Plus, send me a connection request while you're there. This show is written and recorded by myself, Brendan Lagrange, in Brighton, England. Show music is by I Am Wake, and you can find show notes and written transcripts at www.howtolendmoneytostrangers.show or just www.htlmts.show, and I'll see you again next Thursday.